Welcome to Plot 27. In 2019, after many devastating natural disasters, a coalition of scientists from 17 countries succeeded in finding a way to neutralize storms. Everything was monitored from the International Space Station, ISS, and the climate controlling satellite was called Dutch Boy. Jake Lawson was the leader of the team that created the Dutch Boy satellite. That day, Jake was attending a climate council meeting discussing the satellite system. According to a UN resolution, the United States had to hand over control of Dutch Boy to the International Oversight Committee within 3 years. Jake disagreed when Senator Cross said that although the United States built the satellite, there were 600 international crew members involved in its construction. Jake's brother Max Lawson then told him to stop arguing with the senator. Jake was reported to have committed several violations, and the most serious being when he activated Dutch Boy without the US government's permission. Jake explained that a series of storms capable of killing tens of thousands of people had occurred, and he operated Dutch Boy to save many lives. Senator Cross threatened to fire Jake if he continued to argue and said the committee would send a new support team to supervise him. Senator Cross also stated that when they went up there, Jake would have to send some of his crew home. Hearing this, Jake got angry because his team had done nothing wrong. He said the committee was just using them to get praise, but the senator immediately adjourned the meeting. Jake asked Max, who worked as an assistant to the U.S. Secretary of State, for help, but it turned out that the committee had appointed Max as the new head of Dutch Boy last week to replace Jake. 3 years later, the UN review team discovered a frozen village in the Registan Desert, Afghanistan, where the villagers had died from freezing. Max was with Agent Sarah Wilson, who was also his fiancée, but he had to leave immediately because the president was holding a security meeting. U.S. President Andrew Palma called the meeting after receiving reports about the frozen village in Afghanistan. The Climate Council members agreed to keep the incident secret, and Dr. Quigley believed Dutch Boy was responsible. Dr. Jennings proposed shutting down all satellites in Central Asia until they could identify the cause, but Secretary of State Leonard Deckham was worried because it was an election year. Deckham said the press would definitely bring it up if they shut down Dutch Boy. Max urged them to fix the satellite quickly and not worry about politics. To do that, they needed an international team on the satellite. Since Dutch Boy was to be handed over to the International Committee in 2 weeks, the president ordered that one person would report directly to them. Deckham told Max they needed Jake's help because he was the one who built Dutch Boy. International Space Station, Dutch Boy Repair Center. The team had retrieved the Afghan satellite and sent a replacement. Mahmoud Habib, an Indian engineer, was copying data from the satellite. After finishing, Mahmoud died in an accident when a window panel detached. Max visited Jake's home and met Jake's daughter, Hannah. Like her father, Hannah was a genius child studying Jake's solar power generator. Hannah lived with Jake 2 weekends a month because her parents were divorced. Jake came out, but was still angry at Max. Max told him something was wrong with Dutch Boy, and it had caused an entire village to freeze to death. Max also said the airlock suddenly opened by itself yesterday, killing one crew member. Hearing this, Jake agreed to go as long as Max wasn't the one ordering him around. Pacific Climate Council headquarters, Hong Kong. Chief Engineer Chung Long was shopping at a supermarket when he noticed a cat repeatedly entering the refrigerator. Cheng's eggs fell as he was getting into his car, and he saw the eggs boiling. Suddenly, the streets of Hong Kong cracked open, and a fiery vortex emerged from the ground. Chung survived and saw the city in ruins. Hannah worried because she knew her father was going to space to fix Dutch Boy. She planned to go to her mother's house, and before leaving, she asked her father to come back alive. Cape Canaveral, Florida, Kennedy Space Center. Jake finally returned to space to fix Dutch Boy. He arrived at the ISS and met the chief scientist, Ute Fassbender. Fassbender introduced Jake to the team, Adissa, Structure, Duncan Taylor, Systems and Operations Analyst, Hernandez, Robotics, and Dezet, Communications and Security. Jake explained 3 issues they had to investigate: the incident in Afghanistan, Mahmoud's death, and the event in Hong Kong. Chung told Max that Hong Kong's weather suddenly got strangely hot before the underground gas pipe exploded. The satellite sensors should have recorded this, but Chung and Max couldn't access the Hong Kong Dutch Boy satellite. Chung suspected someone was hiding system damage and said if Dutch Boy suffered major damage, it could cause a far worse disaster called a geostorm, a catastrophic event happening simultaneously worldwide. Suddenly, the power went out and a group of armed men, led by Rico, raided Cheng's office. Max asked his friend Dana, a cybersecurity expert, to check his holoframe device. Dana found that someone was trying to block Max's access. Max told Jake he couldn't access the Hong Kong Dutch Boy satellite and asked Jake to investigate. Jake and his team prepared to dismantle the Hong Kong satellite, but Hernandez's robotic tools malfunctioned and the robot arm went out of control. Data on the Hong Kong Dutch Boy satellite was erased due to a fire, but Dezette said she found something in the video of the incident that killed Mahmoud. He explained that each flying panel had a drive inside, and one was stuck in the communications tower. Chung went to Washington to meet Max, his old college friend, while Jake and Fassbinder went to retrieve the panel from the communications tower. After they succeeded, Jake's suit suddenly malfunctioned.
Hang on, Jake!
I can't hold it!
Jake survived and discovered he had retrieved the drive inside the panel, but he kept it secret from the others. Jake suspected a traitor on the ISS. After checking the drive, Jake and Fassbinder found evidence that someone intentionally killed Mahmoud. Fassbinder had trouble identifying the culprit because user access logs were wiped, but Jake said Dutch Boy had its own library from its construction that tracked and archived everything. Jake tried to access the system, but someone had kicked him out. Max and Sarah were waiting for Cheng's arrival when a man suddenly pushed Chung into the street, where he was hit by a car. Before dying, Chung uttered one word, Zeus. Jake contacted Max and gave him a secret code from their childhood. Max asked Dana to decrypt Jake's secret code. The code revealed that evidence of sabotage was at the highest levels of government and warned Max not to trust anyone. Max instructed Dana to search for files named Project Zeus, but Dana couldn't access files protected by the White House's security network without login credentials. Max and Dana then asked Sarah for help. Sarah hesitated, unwilling to break her oath as a secret agent by hacking into the White House servers illegally. After Max explained the situation, she agreed to help. Jake and Fassbinder checked backup server security cameras and saw Mahmoud preparing diagnostics for the Afghan satellite as they launched the replacement satellite. Jake saw Mahmoud take something from the satellite and walk to the locker room. They opened Mahmoud's locker but found nothing. Suddenly, Dezette pointed a gun at them. Jake explained they were searching for the person who killed Mahmoud. Dezette revealed she knew Mahmoud had hidden something in an empty locker but kept it secret to see who would come for it. Jake opened the locker and found Mahmoud's holoframe. It turned out the holoframe contained a virus. Mahmoud was killed after discovering the virus before he could warn anyone. Dana managed to access the White House server and found files about Project Zeus containing tens of thousands of storm simulations. Each storm started in different locations, but all ended with a geostorm. Max realized someone was trying to turn Dutch Boy into a weapon. Max told Jake that someone was using Dutch Boy to attack cities while disguising it as system failures. Jake said the only way to fix Dutch Boy was to reboot the satellite to kill the virus and restore safe mode. To do this, they needed the kill code, which only the president had. Sarah was escorting President Palma to Orlando for a national campaign when she saw Max there. Max said they had to steal the kill code from the president's holoframe to save the world. Everyone on the ISS panicked as all satellite communications went down and nearly 200 satellites were damaged. They lost control of satellites over Tokyo, causing a hailstorm that battered the city. The ISS received reports of extreme weather anomalies from Brazil, Mexico, Bucharest, and Belgrade. Jake requested all critical nearby satellite data and launched as many replacement satellites as possible. Jake explained that replacement satellites would collide with the infected ones and taking them down. Hernandez quickly launched a replacement satellite over Rio de Janeiro, which was being hit by an ice storm. The replacement satellite successfully disabled the one over Rio, but the ISS received a warning a geostorm would occur in 1 hour and 30 minutes. President Palma was campaigning in Orlando. Max saw news about the extreme disasters in Tokyo and Rio and received a report that the next location would be Orlando. Deckham called Max and asked why he insisted on going to Orlando. Max revealed there would be a geostorm in 90 minutes and said he needed the president's kill code to stop it. Deckham didn't believe the president was behind it, but Max had proof, the Project Zeus files. Deckham said the kill code required the president's 10 fingerprints and 2 retina scans. Deckham then took Max to convince the president to cooperate. Meanwhile, the ISS received a warning that the station's self-destruct sequence would begin. Fassbinder was confused because Duncan was missing, even though he was the expert in programming system overrides. Jake confronted Duncan, suspecting him of betrayal. Duncan was the only one who could have introduced the virus. Duncan pulled out a gun hidden under the table, motivated by a large payment. Jake attacked Duncan while he was distracted. Duncan died when a window shattered and sucked him out into space. Deckham escorted Max to the president's office, but suddenly shot Max. Max escaped and immediately informed Sarah that Deckham was behind everything. Max said the next geostorm location was Orlando because Deckham wanted to trap all presidential candidates there, and the only way to disable Dutch Boy was to kidnap President Palma. Sarah ordered her team to evacuate the president, sensing a sniper threat. Sarah and Max rushed to take the president away because time was running out. Meanwhile, Fassbinder ordered everyone to board the shuttle as the station began to break apart, and the geostorm was 55 minutes away. Max told the president that Deckham wanted power by eliminating officials and blaming Dutch Boy. Sarah managed to fight off Rico after a tense chase, while Hannah watched news about the thunderstorm in Orlando and the explosion at the space station. Olivia told Hannah she couldn't reach Jake, and Hannah finally told her mother that Jake was on the space station that was about to be destroyed. On the ISS, Jake decided not to board the returning shuttle because he was waiting for the kill code from Max. Fassbinder gave Jake her holoframe because the reboot had to be done manually. Deckham tracked the president and prepared to kill him. He ordered his men to shoot the car carrying the president, but Sarah trapped them. Soon the police arrived and arrested Deckham. Meanwhile, catastrophic disasters continued worldwide. The president arrived at Kennedy Space Center with less than 10 minutes until the geostorm. They contacted Jake, who was still on the ISS, and told him Deckham was the culprit. After sending the kill code, President Palma thanked Jake for his sacrifice. The kill code only stopped the geostorm and could not stop the station's destruction. Max felt guilty for sending his brother there, but Jake said it was his own choice. Jake apologized and asked Max to take care of Hannah. After sending the kill code, Jake rushed to the main computer room to shut down Dutch Boy. The ISS slowly began to break apart, with less than 3 minutes until the geostorm. Hannah, watching the news, believed her father would return. The disasters continued globally. Jake initially failed to enter the main computer due to a wrong code. Suddenly, Fassbinder appeared and offering help. She stayed in space to help Jake. Together, they entered the main computer room, and Jake entered the kill code. The geostorm was about to hit. As the last satellite went offline, Jake performed a manual reboot. Dutch Boy's network came back online, and all viruses were eliminated. The world was saved from disaster, but Jake and Fassbinder were still in danger as the station's self-destruct sequence reached its final phase. Jake thought they still had a chance because he saw a replacement satellite. Jake and Fassbinder entered the replacement satellite, and the ISS finally exploded. Everyone mourned the loss of the space station and the sacrifice of the two heroes. Suddenly, they saw a light shooting from space, moving in a pattern signaling for help. It turned out Jake and Fassbinder had escaped before the explosion. NASA quickly sent a shuttle, and Hernandez, aboard the shuttle, rescued them both. The world was finally saved from the Geostorm, and the shuttle brought home all the ISS crew. 6 months later, NASA repaired the satellites, while the ISS team rebuilt the space station. Now, the satellites belong to the entire world, and the film ends. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel.